I'd like to call to order the regular council meeting for the City of Springdale for May 6, 2026. If we could all please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, Ms. Brown, if you take roll.
Mr. Gleaves,
Present.
Mr. Hall,
Present.
Mr. Jacobs,
Present.
Ms. McFarland,
Present.
Ms. Thompson,
Present.
Mrs. Webster,
Present.
Mr. Anderson.
Present. Council, in your packets, you had the minutes for the April 15, 2026 meeting. What is your pleasure?
Move to adopt. Second.
Moved and seconded. Any questions, discussions, changes, updates? All right. Seeing none, all those in favor of approving the minutes as published signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? All right. The minutes are approved by acclamation. All right. Next, we'll move on to proclamations. The first one we have is Police Week. Mayor Hawkins.
Thank you, Mr. President. It's a wonderful thing to have so much law enforcement present. I feel very safe, so we're glad you're here. We have a proclamation, whereas in 1962, President John F. Kennedy proclaimed May 15th of each year as Peace Officers Memorial Day and the calendar week of each year during which May 15th occurs as National Police Week. And whereas in the United States, there are more than 800,000 law enforcement officers serving in communities across our great country, including 36 full-time and part-time officers and 5 support staff within our own department. And whereas more than 26,000 law enforcement officers have made the ultimate sacrifice and have been killed in the line of duty, including 111 officers during 2025. And whereas events are often held to honor the men and women who have died in the line of duty to protect and serve, and whereas the men and women of the Springdale Police Department unceasingly provide a vital public service by safeguarding the lives and property of their fellow citizens, and whereas by the law enforcement of our laws, these same officers have given our county, state, and city freedom from fear of the violence and civil disorder that is presently affecting other nations, and whereas this dedicated week pays special tribute to acknowledge all officers who have made the ultimate sacrifice, their lives, in defense of our citizens, including Springdale Police Officer Kai Grant, who was killed in the line of duty on March 21st of 2020 while protecting the citizens of Springdale. Now, therefore, I, Lawrence C. Hawkins III, Mayor of the City of Springdale, do hereby proclaim the week of May 10th through May 16th of 2026 as Police Week. Chief Butler, will you come forward, please? And we also have a proclamation for Building Safety Month. Whereas the City of Springdale is committed to recognizing that our growth and strength depends on the safety and essential role of the homes and buildings that serve our citizens, both in everyday life and in times of disaster. And whereas our confidence in the resilience of the buildings that make up our community is achieved through the devotion of vigilant guardians, building safety officials, fire prevention officials, designers and others in the construction industry who work year-round to ensure the safe constructing of buildings and enforce modern building codes which protect the public from hazards such as snowstorms, tornadoes, floods, earthquakes, where we live, learn, work, and play. And whereas Building Safety Month is to remind the public about the critical role of our community's largely unknown protectors of public safety, our local building and code officials who assure us of safe, sustainable, and livable buildings that are essential to our prosperity. And whereas Building Safety Month encourages all citizens to raise awareness about the importance of safe and dependable construction, And whereas each year in observance of Building Safety Month, people all over the world are asked to consider the commitment to improve building safety, resilience, and economic investment at home and in the community, and to acknowledge the essential service provided to all of us by local building departments in protecting lives and property. Now therefore, I, Lawrence C. Hawkins III, Mayor of the City of Springdale, do hereby proclaim the month of May 2026 Building Safety Month. Melissa.
All right, with that proclamation complete, we'll move on to the next item on the agenda, which is presentations. The first one is Finance Officer, Tax Commissioner introduction. I believe that's Mayor Hawkins again.
Thank you, Mr. President. So we are thrilled to fill the role of our outstanding one department head position that's been open for a little bit. And we have patiently waited for the right person, not just to fill it with anybody. And we were fortunate to get the individual we're going to introduce to you today. So our new Finance Officer and Tax Commissioner, Kelly Flanagan, is with us this evening. She's overseeing our finance department. She's a certified public accountant with 24 years of experience in the public sector, accounting, taxation, and general government operations. Ms. Flanagan graduated from the University of Cincinnati, where she earned a Bachelor in Business Administration and a Master's in Science and Accounting. Ms. Flanagan began her career with the Ohio Auditor State's Office, conducting financial audits and working with the Special Investigations Unit on special audit cases involving allegations of fraud and theft. She later served the City of Montgomery as an Assistant Finance Director and Tax Commissioner, followed by the City of Loveland as the Director of Finance, and most recently, Ms. Flanagan served 8 years as the Finance Director for Miami Township in Claremont County. And we are thrilled to have you present with us today. If you'd come forward and if you'd like to say any words.
Sure. I just want to say hello to everyone and thank you so much for this opportunity. Everyone has been so welcoming and I'm just really looking forward to getting to learn more about the city, getting to work with everyone, and just extremely happy to be here. So thank you very much.
We can move on then to, next we have the police department swearing in. I think, is Chief Butler coming up or are you starting that, Mayor Hawkins?
If we can have Jeremy Beckworth come forward and Chief Butler and that I will faithfully execute the duties of the office of sergeant and will to the best of my ability preserve, protect, and defend the Constitution of the United States of America, the Constitution and laws of the state of Ohio, the charter, laws, and ordinances of the city of Springdale, and the regulations, orders, and procedures of the Springdale Police Department.
Regulations of the Springdale Police Department.
So help me God.
So help me God.
Well, it's always a pleasure to have all of you here join us. I always feel a lot safer when you're here, but I understand if there's other work that you need to do, please don't feel like you need to stay for the rest of the meeting. We can take a beat here if you want to go collect yourselves or meet with your family out there. We're going to continue with the meeting then after that. So again, thank you for coming, and we appreciate it.
He needs 1 second, I think. I think he's waiting on one more.
I think he's waiting for somebody who might need to push it down.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
I think he's here. That's why we're doing this. We're doing the slow exit on purpose here. We're waiting for the presenter to walk in. I think he just got here. So. Does Mr. Anderson need a minute, or is he okay?
No, he's walking in right now. So
Perfect
we're good.
timing. All right. Well, with that gone, we'll move on then to the next item on our agenda, which is a presentation. It's a Metro Now update from, we have Mr. Troy Miller here, the Director of Government Affairs, and Steve Anderson, who's the Senior Director of Transit Development and Innovation. And I believe they're giving us an update on the Metro Now work that we started as a pilot program here, and we're getting an update from them tonight. So the floor is yours.
Well, before I hand it over, I want to say thank you to Springdale and the citizens of Hamilton County. Because of this tax levy, these are the projects we're able to do. We've done the MTIF out here. We've helped, Springdale. We're Metro Now is doing great. So we got Steve was able to come out tonight and give a little presentation. But for my role, I just want to say thank you, and I continue to work with the mayor, city administrator, and all the council members. Thank you.
Good evening, Council. Steve Anderson. Congratulations. It's been almost 3 years. Springdale was the first microtransit zone ever launched in our fair county. It's carried almost 400,000 folks since its inception, May 22nd, 2023. So we're looking at an anniversary coming up real soon. You can see the map here. We have the zones that are operational currently and 3 more that are planned. The orange ones will be launched at some time this year as soon as we get those vehicles. Again, you guys have had these presentations before by other staff members at Metro. Trips start and end typically in the zone. We do make tweaks based on stakeholder feedback, resident feedback. You can still book trips by the app. That's our preferred method, but we can also book them using the telephone. It's still $2.50 fare each way, which is about a pint of gas these days. So you're definitely getting a good deal, and Uber's certainly not getting any cheaper. About 2 years ago, we got a lot of feedback from customers that they stated they wanted hours later. So I think it was ending at maybe 8 on the weekdays. We extended out another hour and opened up the time on 9 p.m. on weekends and holidays as well. Booking a trip on the app is a breeze. You download the Metro Now app. I have one on my phone. I can show you how to do it for Droid or iPhone. Instructions are pretty simple. Basically, just like an Uber, the app notifies you when the vehicle is arriving. Typically, we're about 20-25 minutes from the time you book to a vehicle pulling up to your home or business. There's a phone number there. If you call, some of our senior citizens prefer using the phone and talk to a real person. You can talk to dispatch. We still take cash, so the fare boxes are kind of like a drop mechanism. You do the same thing for a return trip. Vehicles, I'm sure you guys have seen these around the area. They're pretty doggone good looking. There's room for 8, along with 2 wheelchair locations. These are pretty sizable vehicles. We have 2 children under 55 inches that can ride for free with a paying adult. It's a pretty good deal. This is a map of the zone. To the orange west, you can see Forest Park that was added about a year ago. There's this brown zone between the two, the blue and the orange. That is kind of an interlap zone, so both Springdale's Sharonville zone and the Pleasant Run Forest Park can both serve that area. So that's your Kroger's, you have the Forest Park Park and Ride, you have the Meijer, and you have the hospital up in Butler. So you can kind of see how the routes interface with the zone. y'all are our biggest zone by square mile because you have some of Woodlawn, you have some of Lincoln Heights, some of very western Sharonville, and most of all Springdale. This is a heat map. So as I mentioned at the outset, we've done almost 400,000 rides. That's a system number. 40,000 or 35,000 of those rides have been in Springdale. The heat map #1 spot is the Heritage Hill Park apartment area. You see Kroger there on the list as well, downtown Springdale, Springdale Plaza. It's been interesting to see the growth. You can see mostly these are happening where you have a nice mix of commercial and residential. So that's the heat map. Ridership, we had a great month in March. April was just okay. These report was done before the April numbers were finalized. You can see the numbers for Springdale, Sharonville in the green. Continuing to set records, you're at about 4,500 on a good month. Typically they pop a little more in the summertime when it's nice, tend to trail off a little bit in the winter when it's not as nice. Light blue, if you guys are interested, that's the Forest Park, your neighbors to the west, and we launched a Blue Ash Montgomery zone. Again, this is the OG granddaddy. It's doing pretty well. It's not doing as well as Coleraine, but that's to be expected given the density and the population mix. This is the same graph, pretty much broken down weekday, Saturday, and Sunday for the system. We're doing about 500 a day, which is pretty good. 94% of all folks are using the app. Some folks still do call. We're 4.9, pretty good on a 5-star scale. And you can see cash versus the app payment method. That's something we would like to not carry around a lot of cash in a drop box with a driver. So we're working on to see how we can move everything over to the app. There's a scan. You guys know Troy. You guys know me now. It's nice being out here and take any questions. Thank you.
All right, at this point, if anyone on council or administration has questions or comments. Mr. Gleaves.
Thank you.
Thank you,
Hang on a
Mr.
second,
President.
Mr. Anderson.
I have a question.
Oh, hey.
Yes, no problem. Where is the Metro hub for those vehicles?
You mean where they're staged?
Yeah, where are they staged at?
Typically, it's the Krogers in Woodlawn Kroger.
Okay. So for our area, what would you say the average response time is when you use the app?
About 22 minutes.
22?
Mm-hmm.
Great.
A little more when school lets out because, we have some of the vans that are actually taking school kids, some of the Princeton kids, but about 22 minutes.
That's good. Thank you.
Yep.
Mayor Hawkins.
Thank you, Mr. President. No question, just really wanted to say again, it's really appreciated how the dollars that went through when this was a ballot initiative have turned back around in a very tangible way for the communities, whether it's roads. We got a significant amount of money from Metro with regard to the Northland Boulevard project. It's absolutely amazing, $2 million, and then to have things like this that help people, whether they have their own transportation or not, it creates an excellent opportunity that's very cost effective. And you guys have been very responsive when you guys came out the initial time and got some feedback with regard to it'd be nice if the hours were a little bit later, and you guys have done that. It's just really appreciated. So thank you guys, and thank you for coming out and sharing with us how the program's going.
Appreciate it, Mayor.
Mr. Yule.
Thank you, Mr. President. Your presentation was fantastic and very timely. Our first order of business this evening for council is the first reading of a piece of legislation granting us the authorization to apply for a grant to redo our bus shelters. So looking to further expand the ridership here in the area and give our current bus shelters a huge, much needed facelift. So thank you very much.
Appreciate that. Well, since you mentioned bus shelters, we have new stops coming. They are already winning awards. So we put one in by the University of Cincinnati. Those will be coming to Springdale hopefully in the summer timeframe. They look great. They're free of charge, and we'll maintain them. So
Great.
more
We're
good
looking forward to those. Thank you.
And those are all words that we like hearing on council, managing the budget. I love that opportunity. I do also want to say, just to close the thought out, the way that Metro Now has been responsive, not just to ours, but also the way you adjusted the zones from the original pilot was very helpful. I got a lot of good feedback from people who are using it on our side, especially when we made sure that not just Kroger's was included, but also Mercy up in Butler. People were worried that that was going to be an issue since one of the main drivers was being able to get to some of these medical facilities. So having that and keeping an overlap between Forest Park and our zone is really helpful, so that, because we're right on that border and some of those things, I wouldn't want to fight with the neighbors on who gets that in their zone. So I appreciate you being willing to have an overlap zone for some of those key services. So thank you for maintaining that and being responsive to the users. I've gotten nothing but positive feedback, especially about the drivers that we didn't talk about tonight. It's so funny, some of the seniors, when I talk to them about, they take it like to go to our senior center or the rec center, or they take it to Kroger or doctor's appointments. Their first comment isn't about the cost or the convenience. It's, that driver was so nice. He waited and he like came right to the door and things like that. So whatever your hiring practices are, they seem to be working, at least for the people, the drivers in our region. So thank you for that.
Outstanding.
All right. Don't say any more lights. Thank you for coming and providing the information.
Pleasure.
Thank you. All right, council, next we'll move on to communications. Ms. Browder, are there any communications for council this evening?
Thank you, Mr. President. No communications.
All right. Next is communications from the audience. This is an opportunity for anyone in the audience that would like to address council for any reason. Simply come forward to the podium, state your name and address, and you can address council for up to 5 minutes. At this point, the floor is now open for communications from the audience. Second call. Third and final call. All right, at this point, I'm closing communications from the audience, and we'll move on to ordinances and resolutions. First up tonight, we have ordinance number 19-2026. This is a first reading. Mr. Jacobs, when you're ready.
Ordinance number 19-2026, an ordinance authorizing the city administrator to file an application with the Southwest Ohio Regional Transit Authority, SORTA, for Metro Transit infrastructure funds related to the bus shelter replacement project, and authorizing the mayor and city administrator to execute all contracts and other documents related to the project. Whereas street and road infrastructure maintenance is a priority for the city of Springdale, the city, and whereas the Metro Transit Infrastructure Fund program provides funding for the general construction or maintenance of roads, bridges, and related facilities involved in the provision of transit service by the Regional Transit Authority, and whereas the city is planning to make capital improvements known as the Bus Shelter Replacement Project, the project, which includes replacement or installation of new bus shelters and furnishings at select locations throughout the city, and whereas the city intends to apply for funding under the Metro Transit Infrastructure Fund program through the Southwest Ohio Regional Transit Authority, SORTA, in support of the project, and whereas the replacement or installation of new bus shelters and furnishings at select locations throughout the city as part of the project is considered to be a priority need for the city and is a qualified project under the Metro Transit Infrastructure Fund program. Now therefore be ordained by the Council of the City of Springdale, Ohio, members elected thereto concurring. Section 1. The city administrator is hereby authorized and directed to file an application for Metro Transit infrastructure funding related to the bus shelter replacement project. Section 2. The Council for the City of Springdale, City Council, does hereby endorse and support the city's application for Metro Transit infrastructure funding for infrastructure repairs and improvements related to the project. Section 3. If Metro Transit infrastructure funding is awarded to the city, the mayor and city administrator are authorized to execute all contracts and other documents implementing the project. Section 4. The city hereby requests the Southwest Ohio Regional Transit Authority, SORTA, consider and fund the application for the project. Section 5. City Council hereby finds and determines that all formal actions relative to the passage of this ordinance were taken in an open meeting of this council, and that all deliberations of this council and its committees, if any, which resulted in formal action, were taken in meetings open to the public in full compliance with applicable legal requirements, including Section 121.22 of the Ohio Revised Code. Section 6. This ordinance shall take effect at the earliest period allowed by law.
Council, you've heard the first reading of ordinance number 19-2026. Are there any questions or discussion this evening? All right, seeing none, we will see this again at our next meeting. All right, next up we have ordinance number 2026. This is also a first reading. Mr. Jacobs.
Ordinance number 20-2026, an ordinance amending Chapter 112 of the Springdale Code of Ordinances regulating door-to-door canvassing. Whereas the Council of the City of Springdale, Ohio Council has previously adopted certain regulations contained within Chapter 112 of the Springdale Code of Ordinances, the code, that govern door-to-door canvassing within the City of Springdale, and whereas Council seeks to revise Chapter 112 related to door-to-door canvassing with the passage of this ordinance. Now therefore be it ordained by the Council of the City of Springdale, Ohio, members elected thereto concurring. Section 1. Chapter 112 of the Springdale Code of Ordinance shall be amended in relevant part as indicated in the attached Exhibit A, which is incorporated herein by reference. Section 2, this council hereby finds and determines that all formal actions relative to the passage of this ordinance were taken in an open meeting of this council, and that all deliberations of this council, and of its committees, if any, which resulted in formal action, were taken in meetings open to the public in full compliance with applicable legal requirements, including Section 121.22 of the Ohio Revised Code. Section 3, this ordinance shall be effective from and after the earliest period allowed by law.
Council, you've heard the first reading of ordinance number 2026. Any questions or discussion this evening? Mayor Hawkins.
Thank you, Mr. President. While this is just a first reading, it's important to note this is important legislation with regard to folks going door to door. It's been an increasing issue of trying to manage and regulate commercial speech. Again, you go through the ordinance, it doesn't deal with some other things in terms of some political speech or things of that nature, but to manage commercial speech, this legislation is narrowly tailored to address a compelling interest with regard to trying to protect residents and make sure that folks are not going around doing fraudulent things that would impact them. So as this comes back through, again, I think there's the teeth in here that are needed to go through enforcement and have some real consequences with people that are violating these laws. Thank you.
Mr. Jacobs.
Thank you, Mr. President. A couple questions. If we could look at 112.12, denial or revocation. So if somebody's permit is denied or revoked or the person is aggrieved. So it reads, any person aggrieved by the action of the chief of police or his or her designee in the denial or revocation of a permit shall have the right to appeal to a higher level administrative authority. Do we know what the higher level administrative authority would be?
Mayor Hawkins.
Yeah, when we had that conversation too about going through and trying to define that clear, and so yeah, I think we can have another submission that's going to indicate that ultimately it's going to have to come back through, and it'll read to the mayor or the mayor's designee. The idea would be it would be either myself or the city administrator or assistant city administrator.
And I have one additional question. At the very end, 112.99, the penalty. It's, in 2003, the penalty was $100. I did a little math. Inflation, that would be about $180 today. I'm not saying we need to raise it, but should we consider raising it? Or is $100 acceptable?
Yes. So the prior one that I think read as a minor misdemeanor should have been $150 instead of $100. So a minor misdemeanor, if you have it just as it is, it's punishable by $150, not $100. So Mr. Brown was cleaning up that language. And then for a first offense, so it's just saying, hey, it's a minor misdemeanor. That's as it was. The difference is if the person commits another offense, then it goes up to a misdemeanor of the 4th degree, which is punishable by 30 days in jail and a $250 fine. I'm not one who tends to over-criminalize things. There's legislation in the books, I think, that involves people leaving out trash cans that I think is overly criminalized. But this, I think, is appropriate because I personally have watched individuals that I've confronted say, hey, you can't do that if you don't have permission going through the process, registering with the city, and I turn around, drive down the street, and they're back at it, knocking on doors. So it's not okay. The one for the business under subsection B, it's an unclassified misdemeanor because if you're hitting a business with a $100 fine, it's nothing, right? So to put some teeth in it where they're going to have some kind of motivation to make sure they're not continuing to do that and they're going to rein in their employees is the reason why I personally thought that it'd be appropriate to have an unclassified misdemeanor with a higher fine to also incentivize businesses to not have employees out there.
Mr. Brown?
Thank you, Mr. President. As the mayor indicated, I did circulate to everyone a red line copy with some of the changes the mayor talked about. If there are any other things that members of council would like to see revised, or if you have questions, reach out to city administration. Any of us can answer those. This was a first reading tonight, but as the mayor indicated, I think we did want to put some teeth in section 112.99. Additionally, I wanted to make sure everyone was aware that the appeal process would go through the mayor or city administrator. There's precedent for this. You may recall that with our marijuana permits, any kind of appeal and final process does go through the same process, so we felt this was kind of administrative and should follow that same sequence. But if anyone's got any questions, as the mayor indicated, you can ask any of us, and we'll have a final revised copy present for the second reading at the next meeting.
Mr. Hall.
Thank you, Mr. President. Just as a matter of clarification, so the first offense would be an MM, and then it would escalate after that? Is that my understanding, is that correct?
Mayor Hawkins.
Thank you, Mr. President. Yes, it would then go to a misdemeanor of the fourth degree where it would be a jailable offense. So if you have people that can't seem to understand, you can't, without being registered with the city, go around, knock on doors, and you've been told, the next time law enforcement comes up, they could be arrested. And again, I don't know that everybody needs to go to jail for 30 days, but the point is for our law enforcement to be able to arrest somebody off of this if they continue to persist and do that was the goal.
Understand. Thank you, Mayor.
Mr. Jacobs.
Sorry, two more quick ones. It looks like the maximum time for a permit is 1 year. I think that's what I was reading when I went through it. And there's a fee. Does the fee relate to the duration of the permit required? I didn't see anything about a fee structure.
Are you talking about the application fee that's in 11204B? It says at the time of filing, an application fee of $25 will be paid to the police department to cover the cost of investigation, in fact stated therein.
The question came up when I was reading 112.05, section C, subsection 5. The amount of fee paid for the permit, and I was just curious if it was tied to duration, if there's a standard fee. I just didn't see a number. It's not a crucial question, and we could get that information, by email. And I did have one final question, but
I think Ms. Morgan might have an answer for you. Ms. Morgan.
Yes, there is just a $25 application fee. That's the flat fee. It's not related to the duration of the permit if accepted.
And my last question, and this is just an idea, as a resident, I was wondering if the city could post as public information entities that have received a permit. Is that something that the city would consider doing as just like a public notice, hey, these companies do have permission?
And I think that might be similar to how Sharonville approaches it. When they issue one, they post a notice on their Facebook page that one has been issued and what it is. Mr. Yule.
Thank you, Mr. President. Yeah, that's definitely something we can look into, see how we can make that happen. One of the requirements, though, is they are required to wear a badge around their neck the entire time they're soliciting. So it's a badge with our logo on it, has their picture, their name, it's yellow. I'll bring one in for our next meeting so I can share with everyone. But that would be the visual indicator if someone's knocking on the door that this person is a registered solicitor with the city.
And we're not expecting to include rules that their manager has it back at the van. I can get him to come up and show you if you need it. It's per person, not an organizational license.
Correct, per person, yes.
Thank you.
All right. And one thing I'll add at the end, I think this is a long time coming. I'm glad that the updates are coming. I do agree that it should have teeth available to it, even if that's not required. For me, it's a public safety issue, especially if we're in a time right now where people are very aware of who's going through our neighborhoods, and it would help our residents feel safer, and it also would make them safer if we do these background checks. We've had instances where people come up, and it would help prevent scams. It talks about utility stuff. It talks about any kind of door-to-door sales, and you just never know if it's a scam, a sales. So being registered should give people confidence. And my hope is that the businesses also see this as a benefit, right? That then our residents should know that this is valid if they're coming to the door. So it should help them too. It's punitive if they don't follow it, but it should be helpful to the businesses if it's followed. So I appreciate the teeth being in there. All right, seeing no more lights, we'll move on. We will see this again at our next meeting. All right, next up we have ordinance number 21-2026. This is a first reading, but it does have an emergency clause. Mr. Jacobs, when you're ready.
Ordinance number 21-2026, an ordinance authorizing the city administrator to execute an agreement for the purchase of natural gas for the city's natural gas aggregation program and declaring an emergency. Whereas the city of Springdale, the city, with approval of the voters, established an opt-out natural gas aggregation program in order to provide negotiated rates to the city's businesses and residents, and whereas the city has engaged Energy Alliances Incorporated as a consultant for its natural gas aggregation program, and Whereas Energy Alliances is currently seeking rates for a natural gas supplier for the city, and whereas due to market volatility and to optimize the city's ability to obtain the lowest price available, the City Council desires to authorize the city administrator to enter into a natural gas aggregation agreement with a natural gas supplier recommended by Energy Alliances Incorporated, provided that the accepted aggregation rate is at or below Duke Energy's gas cost at the time of execution for a period not to exceed 24 months from the start of the program. Now therefore be it ordained by the Council of the City of Springdale, Ohio, members elected thereto concurring. Section 1. The city administrator is hereby authorized and directed to enter into a natural gas aggregation agreement with a natural gas supplier recommended by Energy Alliances Incorporated, provided that the accepted aggregation rate is at or below Duke Energy's gas cost at the time of execution for a period not to exceed 24 months from the start of the program. Section 2. Council hereby finds and determines that all formal actions relative to the passage of this legislation were taken in an open meeting of this council, and that all deliberations of this council and of its committees, if any, which resulted in formal action, were taken in meetings open to the public in full compliance with applicable legal requirements, including Section 121.22 of the Ohio Revised Code. Section 3. This ordinance shall take effect on the earliest date allowed by law. Section 4. This ordinance shall be an emergency measure necessary for the preservation of the public peace, health, safety, and general welfare, and shall, subject to the terms of Article 2D3D of the Charter, be effective immediately. The reason for said declaration of emergency is the need to execute the agreement as quickly as possible following receipt of proposals in order to secure the best natural gas rate available for the city and its residents.
Council, you've heard the reading of ordinance number 21-2026. It does have the emergency clause and can be acted on tonight. What is your pleasure?
Move to adopt.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Questions or discussion? All right, seeing none. Ms. Browder, if you poll council.
Mr. Jacobs?
Aye.
Mr. Gleaves?
Aye.
Mrs. Webster?
Aye.
Mrs. Thompson?
Aye.
Mr. Hall?
Yes.
Ms. McFarland?
Aye.
Mr. Anderson?
Aye. Ordinance number 21-2026 passes with 7 affirmative votes. All right, next we'll move on to ordinance number 22-2026. This is a first reading. Mr. Jacobs, when you're ready.
Ordinance number 22-2026, an ordinance authorizing the mayor and city administrator to enter into a funding agreement with the Board of County Commissioners of Hamilton County, Ohio to administer a 2026 small event grant. Whereas Hamilton County, Ohio has established as part of their 2026 general fund budget the small event program to promote economic development in suburban communities through the support of smaller community-focused events in Hamilton County, and whereas interested local governments could apply for funds to implement and host events with costs including equipment rentals, entertainment and performers, marketing and promotion, security and insurance, permits and licenses, and other expenses eligible for grant funds, and whereas the City of Springdale, the city, submitted an application for Springdale Pretzel Fest to be held on August 1st in the heart of the city, the event, that will include expenses directly related to the event, and whereas the city seeks to enter into a funding agreement with the Board of Hamilton County Commissioners, accepting the grant funding available through the Hamilton County Small Event Grant Program. Now therefore be it ordained by the Council of the City of Springdale, Ohio, members elected thereto concurring. Section 1. The Council of the City of Springdale, the Council hereby authorizes the mayor and city administrator to enter into a funding agreement with the Board of County Commissioners of the Hamilton County, Ohio, to administer a 2026 small event grant, the agreement. A copy of the agreement is attached as Exhibit A and incorporated herein by reference. Section 2, Council hereby finds and determines that all formal actions relative to the passage of this legislation were taken in an open meeting of this council, and that all deliberations of this council and of its committees, if any, which resulted in formal action, were taken in meetings open to the public in full compliance with applicable legal requirements, including Section 121.22 of the Ohio Revised Code. Section 3, this ordinance shall take effect on the earliest date allowed by law.
Council, you've heard the first reading of ordinance number 22-2026. Any questions or discussion this evening? All right, seeing none, we will see this again at our next meeting. All right, next on the agenda is ordinance number 23-2026. This is also a first reading. Mr. Jacobs, when you're ready.
Ordinance number 23-2026, an ordinance accepting approximately 0.118 acres of property as public right-of-way along a portion of Glen Springs Drive as dedicated in the CCA Glen Springs subdivision. Whereas the City of Springdale, the city, seeks to accept as public right-of-way approximately 0.118 acres of property located along Glen Springs Drive near the intersection of Glen Springs Drive and Springfield Pike. Now therefore be it ordained by the Council of the City of Springdale, Ohio, members elected thereto concurring. Section 1. The City of Springdale City Council accepts as public right-of-way approximately 0.118 acres of property being part of the Glen Springs Drive near the intersection of Glen Springs Drive and Springfield Pike, depicted on a certain recorded subdivision plat, recorded in Plat Book 506, pages 9 and 10 of the Hamilton County Recorder's Office, as further described in the attached Exhibit A, which is incorporated herein by reference. Section 2. Council hereby authorizes the mayor to execute any and all documents required in furtherance of the acceptance of this right-of-way by the city. Section 3, council hereby finds and determines that all formal actions relative to the passage of this legislation were taken in an open meeting of this council, and that all deliberations of this council and of its committees, if any, which resulted in formal action, were taken in meetings open to the public in full compliance with applicable legal requirements, including Section 121.22 of the Ohio Revised Code. Section 4, this ordinance shall take effect on the earliest date allowed by law.
Council, you've heard the first reading of ordinance number 23, 2026. Any questions or discussion this evening? Mr. Ewing.
Thank you, Mr. President. I distributed a map this evening at your place at the dais. After conversation with Mr. Gleaves, he suggested this would be pretty helpful, and I agree, so I apologize it wasn't included in your initial packet. Wasn't expecting anyone to plug in the latitude and longitude to help figure it out. But along that lines, the map there, you'll see where we had some existing right-of-way. If you look at the right side of the page, we had to go over to the west a little bit to acquire some additional right-of-way as a result of some intersection improvements. And then also along Glen Springs Drive, you'll see the existing right-of-way there to the south there along the sidewalk area. We had to go north a little bit as a result of that new drop lane that was created to turn into the establishment there. So that's essentially us taking over control and maintenance of those designated areas.
Better to ask for it now than in the winter when we have to plow it. I will say, though, I don't know if you've gotten feedback on the concern. There were a lot of concerns initially with the Wawa going in there for traffic in general and how the flow would be. The straw poll I took over the past week has all been very positive. I don't want to say surprisingly positive, but positive in terms of flow in and out of Wawa, and the way that the drop lane works and the signage were all called out as being very effective, and people haven't felt, I mean, it's been busier, but they haven't felt like it's slowed them down significantly. So the work that we did there, timing the lights and changing and the drop lane, was all appreciated, and it seems like it's working. So thank you for that work. All right. I don't see any other lights, so we will see this again at our next meeting. All right, next up we have Resolution R4 2026. Mr. Jacobs.
Resolution R4 2026, a resolution authorizing the City of Springdale's participation in the Ohio Association of Public Treasurers 2027 Workers' Compensation Group Retrospective Rating Program. Whereas under the authority of Chapter 4123 of the Ohio Revised Code, employers, including public employer taxing districts, may group together to achieve a potentially lower premium rate than they might have as individual employers, and whereas the Ohio Association of Public Treasurers has created a workers' compensation group retrospective rating program to allow member municipalities to join together for that purpose, and whereas through its participation in this group retrospective rating program, the City of Springdale will have a greater opportunity to potentially experience savings in workers' compensation premium rates. Now therefore be it resolved by the Council of the City of Springdale, Ohio, members elected thereto concurring. Section 1. The City of Springdale hereby enrolls in the 2027 Workers' Compensation Group Retrospective Rating Program offered by the Ohio Public Treasurers Association, and authorizes the City Administrator to execute any and all documents consistent with the enrollment in this program. Section 2. The Finance Officer Tax Commissioner is hereby authorized to pay the projected premium and any third-party administrator fees related to the City's participation in the Workers' Compensation Group Retrospective Rating Program. Section 3, this council hereby finds and determines that all formal actions relative to the passage of this legislation were taken in an open meeting of this council, and that all deliberations of this council and of its committees, if any, which resulted in formal action, were taken in meetings open to the public in full compliance with applicable legal requirements, including Section 121.22 of the Ohio Revised Code. Section 4, this resolution shall take effect on the earliest date allowed by law.
Council, you've heard the reading of Resolution R4 2026. It can be acted on tonight. What is your pleasure?
Motion to adopt.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Questions or discussion? All right, seeing none, Ms. Brown, if you poll council.
Mr. Gleaves?
Aye.
Mr. Jacobs?
Aye.
Ms. McFarland?
Aye.
Mr. Hall?
Yes.
Mrs. Webster?
Aye.
Ms.
me.
Thompson?
Aye.
Mr. Anderson?
Aye. Resolution 4 2026 passes with 7 affirmative votes. Next up, we have Ms. McFarland.
Thank you, Mr. President. I make a motion to move to executive session under Ohio Revised Code, under Article 2D1 of the Springdale Charter to discuss economic development.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Questions or discussion? All right. Are we expecting legislation out of this?
None.
All right. Ms. Brown, if you poll council on moving to executive session.
Ms. McFarland?
Aye.
Mr. Gleaves?
Aye.
Mr. Jacobs?
Aye.
Mrs. Webster?
Aye.
Mr. Hall?
Yes.
Mrs. Thompson?
Aye.
Mr. Anderson?
Yes, we are in executive session. We will return. Council has returned from executive session. We'll move on with the agenda. Next up on the agenda is old business. Is there any old business anyone on council or administration would like to bring forward tonight? All right, seeing none. Move on to new business. We had one item of new business already on the agenda, which is a discussion. We wanted to firm up the town hall Q&A and council summer meeting scheduling. Based on the information on how we've talked about these in a few meetings, both topics individually. First, let's cover the town hall Q&A. There had been a suggestion that we have another town hall Q&A, an open Q&A, that is optional for council members to attend. It will be a formal meeting, but it is a new thing that we've been trying to do. Everyone will be invited and welcome. We've talked about it as what was proposed was a September 9th date, which is the Wednesday in between our council meetings in September, between the 1st and 3rd. So that's that second Wednesday, is that right? And we're talking about 7 p.m. So with that as proposals, do people have concerns about that? Is that date work if people have issues with it? Otherwise, we'd like to get that moving. Ms. Webster.
I have a question for Mr. Braun. The 75 days before election, is that all elections or just Springdale's elections with the town hall? Last year we had a big mess because people didn't know.
Well, as Mr. Braun looks that up, I'll just remind you that that 75 date is before Springdale elections, and that can also be overridden with the assent of council. So council can decide to go inside of that window regardless. But
So I'm afraid that we have one of these prior to the elections. There will be a lot of grandstanding, and I could tell for Springdale people, our elections. I prefer to have it after the election, then the new people who are newly elected could get involved and understand everything.
right, but that's what this would be. So we don't have Springdale elections this fall. We're talking about September 9th.
That's what I ask you.
But-
If the elections have to be all elections or just Springdale elections before the 75-day rule goes into effect? I'm not opposed to the town hall
Well,
at all.
right, I'm saying regardless of that ordinance, we don't have Springdale elections this November.
I know that,
So we're talking about scheduling it for this September.
right.
The ordinance wouldn't prohibit, regardless, if it was any or Springdale, of us having the meeting if council agrees to have the meeting.
Well, we had such a mess last year because everybody didn't know the rule and so forth and so on, and they wanted to make it into a candidate night and all kind of junk.
Mr. Braun.
Thank you, Mr. President. We looked up, it's a statutory, not a charter requirement, and it is limited to municipal elections. So there's no municipal election this year.
Correct.
So given that there's no municipal election, it would not apply to the November election that's coming up. It's only a municipal election.
Okay, that's what I wanted to know. So but I still would like to propose that when you have your town halls, that we do it after the election, when the local elections, municipal, do it after the town halls, or after the, election. So everyone who's newly elected, or even reruns, they'd be more involved and understand it more. That's the way I feel about that. I've been around too long. I know what would happen if we had it before the election.
So I will say that one of the reasons that we had picked the early September date, late August date, was it was an opportunity for residents to give feedback. It was about halfway between the administration's, the mayor's state of the city, and before the budgets are really finalized and before we have the discussion. So the thinking was we split the difference, and also it was nice that it was so that if there was feedback that came in through that channel, that we would have an opportunity to react to it. Feedback from the residents for that next year's budget. My concern with waiting till December or later for that is that if there were things that we needed to do, it would be difficult to integrate that into that next year's budget or priorities. So that's why we did it. It was more to focus on having an opportunity for the residents' feedback to have a real impact. I don't know that, aside from now, that we've ever had a discussion about concern about council members' behavior in a Q&A. I know when we had the Q&A last time, 2 years ago, I don't recall any concerns about that, and I don't know that there was any thing that I would call grandstanding.
This hasn't come up for years, but the reason it came up was a few years back, and that's why that exists. But last year, it was up. We had a lot of problems because everybody didn't know the rule, and everybody wanted to turn it into a candidates night, and all kind of stuff. And if you had it where you had it after the election, you wouldn't have all that stuff.
Right. Well, I guess what I would propose is that maybe we look at a different date on municipal election years to keep it before the 75 days. There's no municipal election this year, so
I know that.
Right, but we're only talking about scheduling this meeting, this one town hall.
Okay, so you're not gonna, this is just for this year?
We're only talking about
And then
September 9th.
we'll be back again next year, hashing it out again?
We can decide next year if we want to have the town hall again and what the date would be based on the conditions and
Why can't we make it a rule or an addition to that now? Why do we have to wait until there's more problems occurring, which could occur next year? So I don't understand why we just can't put that into the ordinance now, that it will be after the elections and not prior.
Yeah, we'll get some more thoughts on it, but just know it's not an ordinance. We're just scheduling a meeting, and we can call a meeting anytime we want. There's no ordinance or scheduling required. Mayor Hawkins.
Thank you, Mr. President. Ms. Webster, I understand your concerns, and obviously council would put that ordinance into effect years ago.
Right.
And I just want to be clear. So when this first took place, now 2 years ago, literally, I think we had probably had the State of the City address. I spoke with President Anderson and said, like to have something where council can be involved with talking with residents if they're interested in a more casual environment versus just coming out here. And I said to him, I said, I'm interested in doing it. If nobody else wants to do it, I'll go do it by myself. He indicated, hey, look, I'm interested in doing it. We'll open it for council and don't want anybody to feel like they have to do it. That's really important. It's not something where anybody should look bad, feel bad if they don't go. And so the idea was, like President Anderson said, I said, we shut for 6 months from March where we do the State of the City. It's a good break and it gives folks the opportunity to do stuff before a budget. Now, the reality, you are 100% right with regard to our ordinance. In an election year for Springdale, we cannot do it that late. We got to go put it in a different time frame. And so, this comes around for 2027. That'll be a discussion that folks got to have, whether there is one, whether there's not. We didn't have one last year. So, maybe it's something where folks go, hey, it's too hot with people running and people are going to be getting ballots together, or getting signatures together in the spring and in June, July. Maybe it's not done. I don't know. It's something we can talk about at that point in time, and there are valid points with regard to that. But that's kind of how that came to be. I personally have never said I wanted to be a candidates forum. I don't know. No. Some other people may have had those discussions, but that was not something that I wanted. It's not what it's intended for.
Mayor, you and I had a lengthy conversation about that. I'm sure you remember.
I do. I know you were concerned about that, but I'm just telling you, this is how that came to be. 2027, I think it's something where there are a lot of valid points and concerns. I say we address that then. I guess you're asking if council wants to do an ordinance now, just blanket it generally. That's a council decision if you guys want to go and do that. But I just wanted to be clear, that's where this came from initially as an idea. And,
But I don't think that, I don't understand why we just can't say whenever there's local elections that you don't even have a town hall until after the election. I'm not saying take away the town hall, but let it exist, but after the elections, because I can see and hear and I know what's going to happen.
Well, and what I'm hearing you say is maybe the 75 days before a Springdale election is insufficient, and that it should be a longer period of time. That's something for council to have a conversation about, right? So, council can change the legislation however they want. But even with that, for this year, it's not an issue for us for this year, but those are valid points, and council can have that talk.
Okay,
Thank you, ma'am.
thank you,
Any
Thank
other
you.
discussion?
Mr. President.
All right, and then the other item that we want to discuss, and we can think, what do we want to do? I mean, so I can call the meeting regardless. We can have it for September 9th, and then next year we'll just know that we'll plan to have a discussion early if we're going to have it. My concern at this point is we're in May, right? And if we're not advertising and preparing for it, we just need to pick a date. If we go too far out into the year, aside from the budget issue and the timing, is that then you start getting into holidays, and it's more difficult to have those types of discussions. So we still need to we need to make a decision. We're only talking about this next meeting, and then we can talk about changing the ordinance or making a rule for municipal election years separately, but we still need to decide tonight. Ms. Webster.
I just think it would stop some problems if everybody knows we can have a town hall and it will be after the election. So everyone that's newly elected, like I said, or repeat, could be involved and understand things. You have it before, I see problems. And that's all I'm asking.
Right, and I understand. So for 2027, I want to have that discussion to plan for it. What I want to do tonight is schedule the 2026 meeting only. There's no ordinance required. It's just, I'm trying to understand if people are going to be available. It was more a scheduling question as opposed to an ordinance question. If we want to talk about changing the ordinance for 27 and do that and talk about a November date, that's fine. But what we're talking about tonight is, does anybody on council have a hard issue, not a philosophical issue for 27, but for 26, do people have hard scheduling conflicts, or do you see something in the community that would conflict with that date? Because we don't want to compete with things like big school events or big other civic events. So the question is really, do people see issues this year with September 9th, 2026 at 7 p.m. at the Rec Center for the Town Hall? Mr. Jacobs.
Thank you, Mr. President. I have no issues. I like the date as is. I would be in favor of setting up this meeting.
Ms. Webster.
I lost my train of thought with whatever he said. Why are we talking about this year's election when we don't have any elections?
That was the topic you brought up. You talked about election issues.
We're not having any in 2026 locally. You've
Great.
said that 3 or 4 times, and I know that. So why are we even discussing this tonight?
Right now, we're talking about scheduling the town hall for September 9th at 7 p.m. Mr. Gleaves.
Thank you, Mr. President. I see no problem with scheduling September 9th. Thank you.
You see no problem with what?
He had said that he saw no problems with the September 9th, 2026 time for this year. We're talking about this year. Any other comments? Okay. All right, so I'm not hearing conflicts for this year, but I do take the note that we need to have a longer conversation about ongoing plans for the town hall. I will remind people that in terms of stakes, last time we had a good turnout. There was, I want to say, 50 people. It was pretty well attended, but this isn't a city moving type event right now. I do want to get it advertised so that people have the opportunity to ask questions. So we're going to go ahead and stick with that date for this year. And we'll go ahead and talk about if we need to update the ordinance or take a look at making it maybe earlier so that it's not an issue. Maybe it's earlier in the year. Maybe we do it in August or July, especially if we're going to be having summer schedules, right? So maybe we do it as a regular rotation, that in place of one of our summer meetings that we cancel, we have the Q&A, right? So that's another opportunity. Instead of pushing it back, maybe we pull it forward a little bit. Not so much that it steps on what's going on with the state of the city, but maybe it comes into the summer and replaces one of our summer meetings. So that's something else to think about as an alternative. So we'll go ahead and talk about that. But as a segue to the other item that was there, it was about summer schedule. Historically, council has taken July and August. Instead of having 2 meetings, we typically just keep the 1 second meeting, the full meeting that has all the committee reports in that. So that's the July 15th and August 12th. Now, this past summer, we did cancel it differently, but that was to get around construction schedules. We were trying to accommodate that. So the question for this year, and first it's for administration to make sure that we're not anticipating a heavy load. Typically in the summer, we do the summer schedule because the ordinance load is much lower during the year, and we don't typically need 2 meetings to get all the city's business done. We always caveat those cancellations with saying, if there's work the city has to do, we'll call the meeting and have the meeting. So while we want people to be able to make plans with their family and do all the things that people do in the summer, just know that if we do move to our summer schedule, there is still that possibility, just like any day, if there's something important or urgent in the city that can't wait, we will still have a meeting. It may not be the regular meeting, it'll be a special meeting. So let me first confirm with administration, do you anticipate a load that's conducive to a summer schedule again this year, or should we be skipping it?
Yes, no, I think what we have projected throughout the summer schedule will accommodate all the legislation.
Okay. All right, so with that, hearing that from administration, the proposal that I have is to maintain our summer schedule, which would mean we would cancel the July 1st and August 5th meetings. With that as a proposal, does anyone have concern or question before we make it a motion? I just want to make sure we have it before we go into that. Does people have issues with summer schedule? All right, you have another opportunity to respond. So at this point, the chair is open to a motion to cancel our July 1st and August 5th meeting to move to the summer schedule. Would anyone like to make that motion? Is there a second?
Second.
All right. So moved and seconded. Questions or discussion about canceling our July 1st and August 5th regularly scheduled meeting for the summer schedule? All right, and we'll just do that by a voice vote. All those in favor of maintaining the summer schedule this year as described signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? All right, with that, I take that as unanimous consent to cancel our July 1st and August 5th meeting to move to a summer schedule. Please do keep in mind that it is possible that we may need to have them if things were to come, but in general, if something comes up, we'll give you as much notice as possible. Okay, any other new business that anyone on council or administration would like to bring forward tonight? All right, seeing none, we'll move on to meetings and announcements. Mr. Hall.
Thank you, Mr. President. Just as a matter of clarification, where are we at with this town hall? Is it September the 9th? If it is September the 9th, then will it be part of the record that that will be for this year only and be decided for 2027 at a later date? Is that my understanding?
So you're correct. What we're going to do is call it'll be a meeting. There'll be because there'll be more than council members there. It's a quorum, so it is technically a meeting, and I'll be calling it as a meeting. It doesn't require an ordinance or change, but it will be for September 9th. I believe we talked about 7 p.m. The time is subject to change based on review with administration and what's available in the.
Understand. Thank you.
It'll be at the community center. But yes, that's for this year. We can talk about next year later. Ms. McFarland.
Thank you, Mr. President. Planning Commission will meet in these chambers on May 11th at 7 p.m. And the Board of Health will meet in these chambers on May 14th at 6:30 p.m.
Mr. Gleaves.
Thank you, Mr. President. The Zoning Code Revision Committee will meet tomorrow in the conference room at 2:30 p.m. And the Board of Zoning Appeals is scheduled to meet the 26th at 7 p.m. in these chambers. That's all I have. Thank you.
Ms. Morgan.
Thank you, Mr. President. The next Civil Service Commission meeting will be tomorrow at 2 p.m. Thank you.
Ms. McFarland.
Thank you, Mr. President. Sorry, I was asked to remind everybody that the community luncheon at the elementary school is next Wednesday, the 13th.
And as a reminder, if you have not RSVP'd, I think you might be too late to Mr. Yule, but I'm sure if you did not RSVP and still plan to attend, we can see what we can do to accommodate. But please let them know so they can plan appropriately. In the past, I will encourage everyone, if you're on the fence, to go. It's a lovely event that the school puts on. The kids are all there for lunch. They have things that they've made to thank you. They have discussions. It's a really nice time. So, all right, still meetings and announcements. All right, seeing none, we'll move on to communications from the audience. This is the second time tonight. If anyone in the audience would like to address council for any reason, simply come forward to the podium, state your name and address, and you have up to 5 minutes to address council. At this point, the floor is now open. Second call, third and final call. At this point, I'm closing communications with the audience, and we'll move on to a recap of legislative items and legislation still in development. Mr. Jacobs.
Council, as you review your legislative summary, item 1, an ordinance amending Chapter 112 of the Springdale Code of Ordinances regulating door-to-door canvassing, was addressed by ordinance 2026, receiving a first reading. Item 2, an ordinance authorizing the city administrator to file an application with the Southwest Ohio Regional Transit Authority, SORTA, for Metro Transit infrastructure funds related to the bus shelter replacement project, and authorizing the mayor and city administrator to execute all contracts and other documents related to the project, was addressed by ordinance 19, 2026, also receiving a first reading. Item 3, an ordinance authorizing the city administrator to execute an agreement for the purchase of natural gas for the city's natural gas aggregation program and declaring an emergency, was addressed by ordinance 21, 2026, receiving 7 affirmative votes. Item 4, an ordinance authorizing the mayor and city administrator to enter into a funding agreement with the Board of County Commissioners of Hamilton County, Ohio to administer a 2026 small event grant, was addressed by ordinance 22, 2026, receiving a first reading. Item 5, an ordinance accepting approximately 0.118 acres of property as public right-of-way along a portion of Glen Springs Drive as dedicated in the CCA Glen Springs subdivision, was addressed by ordinance 23, 2026, receiving a first reading. Item 6, a resolution authorizing the City of Springdale's participation in the Ohio Association of Public Treasurers 2027 Workers' Compensation Retrospective Rating Program, was addressed by Resolution 4, 2026, receiving 7 affirmative votes. In development, we have item 7, an ordinance declaring certain city property as surplus property and authorizing the sale, disposal, or transfer of surplus property. That will be before council at our next meeting on the 20th. And then finally, council by voice vote approved moving to a summer schedule, canceling our July 1st and August 5th meetings. That's all I have.
Anything else from council or administration? All right, then all that's left before us is item 17.
Move to adjourn.
All right, we're adjourned. Thank you, everyone.